Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, stuck between Belgium, France, and Germany. They are known for their full pockets, since they are one of the richest countries in the world in terms of GDP per capita. They've also got a dish called Grumperkach. Sorry for butchering the pronunciation if any Luxembourger is here. But today I'm not gonna talk about Luxembourgish cuisine. The thing that takes my attention most when I look at it on Wikipedia is the ethnic distribution of the country. As anyone can guess, there are many expats and immigrants in Luxembourg, accounting for almost half of the population. The largest contributor to immigrants' population is Portuguese, making up nearly 1/5 of the total population. But why there are so many Portuguese in Luxembourg, you may ask? Without further ado, let's dive right into it. Firstly, we need to go back in time a little bit. Mary Anne of Portugal in the late 1870s was looking for a husband. Well, at least his father was. Austria's Emperor Franz Joseph had interest in her, but because his son Prince Rudolf did not like her, and Mary ended up marrying to William IV, Grand Duke of Luxembourg. Meanwhile, Portuguese colonial empire had been going through a crisis and decline, and also had other problems like extremely low literacy rate and lagging behind the technological advancements in Europe. Along with that, other European countries were much more powerful and developed than Portugal. All these situations had already been causing Portuguese population to flee the country and to immigrate to other far more developed European countries, which the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg was a part of. Luxembourg, on the other hand, was an industrial country at the time and had been a center of attraction for immigrants from countries like Italy, Austria, and southern German states. At the time, Luxembourg was a major economic hub in Europe. However, those problems that Portuguese were having in the late 19th century were not the main cause of huge Portuguese diaspora in Luxembourg today. Fast forward to the 20th century, the Portuguese monarchy collapsed, First Republic was formed, but this First Republic was not a total success story, however. And after 16 years with the leadership of Antonio Salazar, national dictatorship, also known as Ditadura Nacional, was established. With the re-election of Salazar, Second Republic transformed into a long-suffering dictatorship named Estado Novo, which simply means new state. During the regime led by Salazar, Portugal embraced an economic and political doctrine called corporatism. Notwithstanding the somewhat economic success of this system, with an average GDP growth rate of 5.7% per year, Portugal was still far behind the other European countries in terms of GDP per capita and had a staggering infant mortality rate. With the ending of World War II, the process of decolonization of colonial empires skyrocketed, with the British Empire releasing its colonies one after another. France either lost or given independence to its colonies as well. Spain, on the other hand, had also lost almost all of its colonies way before in the early 19th century. After the decolonization of these global powers, all eyes turned to Portugal. Despite the pressure from other European powers, Portugal was pretty stubborn not to let go its provinces, since they embraced a political concept named pluricontinentalism, giving them the right to call their colonies as provinces. If you ask, wait Hugin, what's pluricontinentalism? Then I'd simply say it's a made-up political term to justify the ownership of colonies and overseas holdings by declaring those lands as the integral parts and provinces of the said country. Portuguese coined the term during the rule of Maria I of Portugal. But from Portuguese point of view, their justification for the purpose of keeping their colonies is pretty reasonable, since they had Mozambique and Angola for more than 500 years. This reality was giving Portugal the guts to insist on their claims and rights, thus creating discontent between them and European powers. The political situation between Portugal and other countries was tense. India was putting pressure on Portugal to return the colonial holdings in Indian subcontinent beginning in the late 1950s. This situation, however, did not last that long. After merely 3 days of fighting, Portugal eventually gave up the colonies of Diu, Goa, and Daman. In the meantime, independence movements in Africa became inevitable, and fight had begun. Almost all of major global powers were supporting the independence movements with the exception of Spain, which was at the time under a dictatorship rule, just like Portugal. The war lasted a bit more than a decade and it literally devastated Portuguese economy. To support the war in Africa, the Portuguese government were calling young Portuguese men to serve their country. Since the actions of government were seen unnecessary and extreme by the public, many young Portuguese men were fleeing the country to escape the utter chaos in their motherland to other European countries like France, Germany, Switzerland, and Luxembourg. Economic and social status in Portugal at the time was not pretty comfortable per se. Portuguese government were recruiting nationwide to meet the manpower required to keep the war in Africa. After the Second World War, just like Portugal, other European countries had in need of employees to reconstruct their countries and rebuild their economies. Germany, for example, was also employing immigration programs from different countries like Turkey, Ukraine, and Serbia. Nevertheless, Luxembourg's priorities were different. They were rooting for people who can adapt to Luxembourg culture. As every country was aware of the situation with Portugal, Luxembourg did see nothing but a great opportunity to supply their need for manpower for their economy. Alongside with that, Luxembourg was also losing immigrants since the unification of Italy and Germany. The reason Luxembourg government aimed for Portuguese people is the social structure and similarity between two nations' people and culture. Portuguese were white, Catholic Christian, and European, just like Luxembourgers. And this way they wouldn't have to deal with social and cultural problems as much as other European countries like Germany and Netherlands, because they supply their manpower needs from culturally diverse countries. However, Luxembourg was not gonna stop basically prioritizing the Portuguese immigration. Portugal and Luxembourg signed a special treaty in Lisbon in 1970. This agreement officially allowed Portuguese people in Luxembourg to invite their families in Portugal and reunite with them. While before this agreement was signed, the number of Portuguese population was as low as around 6,000 people. The following decade saw a huge increase with the numbers reaching 35,000. That's like 600% increase in just 10 years. Today, Portuguese diaspora in Luxembourg is accounting for 18% of the total population and around 50% of the total foreign population in the country. If any Luxembourger is watching, can you share your thoughts about Portuguese diaspora living in Luxembourg? What do you think of them, or what is a Luxembourger's opinion about Portuguese people living in Luxembourg? And all of you guys, what do you think about this situation? Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comment section down below. And until next time, stay curious.